I want to go to this extraordinary letter of appeal from more than 80 regional action and awareness groups representing farmers right around our great country, landholders and residents, who've all got really deep concerns, as we all have, about these reports that asbestos has been found inside operating wind turbines across regional communities in Australia. Now, the request for an immediate stop order from impacted communities was sent to the Labor Cabinet Minister this week, Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke and Energy Minister Chris Bowen among them. Here to tell us a little more about what we think we can achieve is someone I've spoken to a couple of times on the program, Andrew Wiedemann. Andrew, good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
This stop order, have you had any response?
Well, look, not at this stage, Steve, but we're hoping to, of course. In due course, we would get some sort of a response back from Minister Burke and Minister Bowen about this. But yeah, look, seriously, the groups are very, very concerned about the impacts potentially in the community, the workers that are actually working around and inside of these structures. We've been saying for quite a while, Steve, that these things just are absolutely being rolled out without any real checks and balances. And that's what's concerning us and continues to. And this is just another one of those examples of where products that are banned overseas and here in Australia as well have now been allowed into the country and now potentially putting exposure to workers.
Andrew, is there a particular brand or a particular destination of where these things are made and reach us? I mean, are they from China or are they from somewhere else? Do we know?
Most of these products are brought in from China, essentially, Steve. But at the end of the day, they've been and passed through our customs services where they really should have been picked up, and this should have been picked up a long time ago. But there's PFAS products that are also used, which concerns us also in these manufacturing of these particular wind turbines as well. So products like bisphenol, which is, it's not biodegradable by any means, and it just stays in the soil. So we're really concerned about a lot of that type of manufacturing and the fact that this manufacturing process and our government has, through their protocols, allowed these into Australia. And so we've asked quite clearly for government to put a work stop to this, make an assessment, because there could be potentially putting human health at risk.
Andrew, you're mechanical, I'm not. I mean, for most of us who see these wind turbines, and I've seen them up close, you just see a massive tube with the blades on top that turn or don't turn depending on the wind. How much mechanical machinery is involved in one of these things? And what do they? I presume they use the brake system where the asbestos has been found to shut these things down when it gets too windy. Is that what happens?
Well, it is, Steve. It's like the brakes in your car or in our truck, where the brake pads themselves are made of a product called with an asbestos product in them, and of course, then that's flakes off when they're applied to slow the turbine down or stop it altogether. We also understand, Steve, that there's a lift inside of a lot of these particular turbines as well, where the cages have wheel bearings in them as well with brakes, and that's also has the potential for it to flake off and obviously become exposed to the workers. But look, at the end of the day, Steve, it's a pretty clear ask for these things to be checked, proper planning, and the process is broken down, and poor government policy is clearly leading this, because there's just been this massive push into pushing it into open farmland, prime agricultural land right up and down the east coast and now in WA as well, without anybody really taking a good hard look at this. And some of these big investors must be starting to get very nervous, because they're investing into these things, and the only way we've been told, of course, as you are well aware and spoken about on this program before, the only true cost of energy is that these things are subsidised to the back end. And I think a lot of people are now starting to investigate just how much. And here in Victoria, I was just talking to a chap today, and he said there was nearly 45% of the returns on one of the wind farms has come from subsidy.
We're about to head into, if we're not already there, into the fire season. There's already been some bushfires around the place. When you have moving parts, you've got the potential for sparking. How much does that worry you when you might have these things ploughed straight through the middle of, a farm where, there's bush, there's grass, and then there's crops? How much of a worry is that?
Well, it's massive, and that's actually our biggest concern with all this transmission line process that's been going on, Steve, which we spoke about as well. That's why we're stopping at the gate these people trying to enter the properties, because we know all we're doing is increasing our fire risk potential. We already know that 90% of the fires come from parks as well. So the 10% is the area that we're out there, and we're just going to increase that potential exponentially. And all the big fires, you'll be old enough to remember the Black Saturday bushfires back in the early 80s, and that was all started by, as most are, by power lines, and that is a
Correct.
real concern for us. That we're just going to increase the potential for that.
Oh, I go back to Ash Wednesday. I mean, every time we've had a major disaster fire like these, I mean, it's power lines sparking and lines sparking off each other that cause death and destruction. I mean, we just can't have something. I mean, I would have thought the argument should be how we're making things safer, not how we're making things more risky.
Well, that's the age that I've sort of grown up in, Steve. That we've been trying to do exactly what you just said, is to move and progressively move forward. And I think at the moment, look, this is only a stopgap. They're only a replaceable setup. This is not something that's long-term built. I mean, this is like buying a car and trading it in 15 years' time, and it's a wreck. So the reality is we've got to try and move forward and come up with a much better plan for energy determination here and energy provision here in Australia than we are at the moment. And it'll include a bit of renewable, but the reality is it's only a short-term gap, because we need to make sure we get further on with it.
Andrew, a little bit of a smile on your face today. A bit of a win. The Allen government, as bad as they are, they've been forced into a back down, freezing that unpopular and useless emergency services tax hike for farmers. They're now going to leave that until at least 2027. I guess the fact that in November 2026, Andrew, there's going to be an election. I wonder if that's got any coincidence or not.
Oh, look, there's no doubt. I mean, the pressure that we've been able to apply through the Across Victoria Alliance, which I chair, that's got 30 groups involved in it. And, the power of the people, really. I mean, we took 8,000 people to the steps of Parliament back in July, and we've had other protests since. And I think the weight of numbers, all these politicians in the backbench want to get elected. And, I think there's a lot of pressure coming to bear on Jacinta Allen at the moment and Jacqueline Symes about their philosophies of how they're leading the party. And the reality is the place is going broke. And now they've obviously woken up that they're not going to get votes out of the country and out of CFA volunteers as well, because the reality is we just can't afford this, and it's going to break everybody. But we're still calling for a parliamentary inquiry. It doesn't matter who gets in November 26th. We need to know and understand the money that we're putting in to support our emergency services and volunteers is actually getting to that emergency services and volunteers back end. Because at the moment, we're really concerned about the lack of investment. We talk about the United Firefighters Union, who we've teamed up with in Melbourne, the lack of machinery that they're getting in their space, and it's the same for us as CFA volunteers. And this year they've dug up a whole heap of old trucks because the CMA has run out the DSE. Sorry, I've got that many different changes, but the ones that look after the parks and gardens, all their units, they're actually off the road. So we're out here. We're trying to make sure that we've got a workforce ready to fight fires. Luckily, here on the farm, we've got 3 of our own units, and we'll be deploying them to local fires. But nobody's going to the parks and gardens this year because the equipment's just going to fail.
That's what happens when the state's broke. Andrew, thank you. Keep the pressure up. I know you will. We'll catch up with you again soon.